everyone. Welcome to Love and Life Elevated. I'm Dr. Deborah Rouse.
And I'm Dr. James Rouse. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing, honey?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about our topic today because it is one that is near and dear to my heart. It's something we've been helping people with, for at least 25 years, I would say.
Easily.
Yeah.
And before we knew how to help ourselves, right? Oh my gosh.
Totally. And so our topic is stress eating. It's particularly up for a lot of people right now with the elections around the corner. That's causing a lot of stress and anxiety. And then right before that, we have Halloween. So many of us have tons of candy in the house, and it can be a little tempting when those political ads come in. And then right around the corner, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and it brings up a lot. And so we tend to emotionally eat and stress eat, and that's just never great.
No, it's not. And I think what we're going to try to do today is help you to understand the chemistry behind stress eating and why it's so powerful and why we struggle with that. So many of us struggle with that. And most importantly, some solutions for all of us to help navigate these next few weeks, these next couple of months, and hopefully empower all of us to really look at our self-care as a primary form of social activism in spite of all the things that seem to be happening, overwhelming and overpowering us.
Yeah, for sure. And just a quick personal story about this that I've told you about. So when I was a kid, I would get sick almost every single Christmas. And I would, I'd be down and out, really bad headache, and then it would develop into something deeper. And I would just be flat out on the couch, probably through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day into, that week into the new year. And so there were a lot of things going on at that time. My parents were not married anymore, and there was always a lot of chaos and drama stressing me out as a kid around the holidays. It's not a lot of great memories there. So I think I just would, have whatever cookies were around, candy. I wasn't brought up in a real sweet household in terms of mom didn't bring in tons of candy, but I had a huge sweet tooth. So whatever was available, I was eating it. And it took me till I was 25 to make that connection. Do you notice you get sick every year around the holidays? Maybe it's all the sugar and artificial coloring combined with the sugar that you're eating. Or guess what? Over drinking, and that's turning into sugar in the body. And bingo, wow. I don't think I've been sick around the holidays, mostly since we've been together, because sure, we have our little indulgences, but I don't turn to food to cope for anything.
No, you don't. Yeah. And I'm so proud of you, the way that you recognize that, you have that self-awareness. And I think for a lot of us, you might hear that story and go, oh my gosh, that's a childhood memory for me, or maybe it's something you're doing right now. And I think really what we want today to be a lot about is self-awareness, because there's so much around the solutions part of stress eating and emotional eating that is connected to just an awareness, a mindfulness. And we can break the cycle through this classic way we look at stimulus and response. And the more that self-awareness and self-care helps to kind of expand that moment in between stimulus and response. And there's where the magic and the healing and the opportunity for awareness really lies for all of us.
Yeah, so we've talked about the hormone cortisol before in the podcast, and a lot of people talk about stress and cortisol release. And certainly that does drive some of those cravings for sugary, fatty, salty snacks. And what happens then when we eat those snacks, as a result, it increases our dopamine levels. So those spike, and we get this kind of circular feedback, ooh, that feels really good. But then how we know that it's actually we're stress eating are a couple things may happen. Do you know what they are? One is you feel guilty about what you ate. Or you get sick, like I was getting sick. You were over full, and now your blood sugar you're not sleeping well, your blood sugar is no longer balanced, and before you know it, you've eaten an entire bag of Chips Ahoy.
And not to mention the fact that there's research out there that tells us that the average person in this country, here in the U.S., is consuming somewhere between 80 to 95 grams of sugar every single day. 85 to 90 grams of sugar, when we know that...
I think it's way higher.
And it's probably higher.
It's way higher.
But that's the average.
Oh, okay.
And what's really, really sobering is that once we get above 60 grams, we are leaning into depression and anxiety, literally a diagnosable depression and anxiety. So we're that much higher than the threshold of what will bring those symptoms on. So much of this, and now we're moving into this season, and I know a lot of us are already feeling, oh my goodness, between the political ads happening, between getting ready for the holidays, which can be very stressful, and a lot of us have memories. So all that stuff is in our program. So that 60 grams of sugar is being far exceeded this time of the year. And studies do tell us that it wasn't like somewhere between upwards of 5 pounds is gained.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The other thing with the sugar is that the weight gain. So a lot of people gain anywhere from 1 to 10 pounds a year just during these 2 to 3 months, like October through the end of the year. And then we tend to not take it back off in the new year. So then over time that really accumulates, and we want to blame andropause and menopause for this sneaky extra 10 pounds. But if we haven't cultivated the healthy habits all along, they're just not going to come off magically. It has to be a very intentional, mindful practice to avoid it coming on in the first place.
Right. So we've talked about the fact there can be history. Like this can be something that as children, we may have had some of these stressful experiences growing up in a home where, holidays represented this for us and the stress kicks in and it's a memory for us. So that way in which our physiology responds, that memory is absolute. We may be in a place right now where because of the political situation going on, that's already kind of a higher hum of cortisol. So we're seeing ourselves during maybe evening. We have the one ritual of television, it's Jeopardy. And sweetheart, I'm so mindful of the way that you've helped us to navigate that. You literally have us taping Jeopardy. So when it comes on, we can literally fast forward through the political commercials, which are very stressful for us when they just pop in. You're watching a great show and all of a sudden this just awful political message comes in and then you find yourself going, oh my gosh, the cortisol and then the blood sugar. And then you find yourself going, I wonder if I want dessert, or I wonder if I want some chocolate. I wonder if I want some, whatever it might be.
No, I don't think you're wondering. I don't think you're thinking about it. You're just doing it.
You're just doing it. It's a response.
Yeah. And so, we love to tape whatever show it is. I also like to tape a Sunday morning show. And if you start in, say, 20 minutes after it already started, you are going to be able to fast forward through every commercial. So these political attack ads, anything that's like giving you that anxiety, that stress, you're just fast forwarding through and you can avoid that trigger.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the solutions, because I know we've talked about the chemistry, we've talked about why it's so powerful, and I think when people hear Deb talking about dopamine, realize that that is an unbelievably powerful way in which we medicate ourselves. When we get a text message, when we're scrolling through Instagram, all of that is dopamine related. It builds
You're
upon
looking for
itself.
that like on social media, like boom, that's a dopamine hit. So same thing with the sugar.
Exactly. So this is very powerful, and the wiring of that is absolute. And that's why social media has become so addictive, the same way sugar is so addictive, same way refined carbohydrates. We don't typically go, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. Where's the broccoli? Where's the kale? No, it's highly refined carbohydrates, sugar, quick releasing sugars. That is what we crave under the influence of stress and cortisol.
So over the years, we used to teach this program, a wellness program in the Denver metro area. And ironically, we would lead these large groups, up to 1,000 people actually, where we take them through like an 8-week sort of eating meal plan with like weekly check-ins and talks. And we would help people not just navigate the holidays healthfully, but actually lose weight healthfully. Like if you had that extra weight, how do you do that mindfully through the holidays? And what a lot of it is just planning and mindfulness and setting, one of our favorite practices with eating isn't kind of like, oh, you have to make sure you have 40% carb and 30% protein or what have you. But that Hari Hachi Bu practice.
Oh gosh,
which
it's
is
so good
because it's just an easy way to think of portion control, and it's eating until you're about 80% full and stopping. because it takes 20 minutes for the stomach to actually recognize fullness. And if you like do entire clean plate club that you already over full, you already stuffed the servings or piled it on, and then you're like, oh, now dessert, that is, you're going to feel terrible afterwards. And you have some good suggestions around that too, with just that pause after the 80%.
Exactly. And I think for the way we're looking at holiday eating and how we actually organize our meal plan, one of the most important things we can do, and I know this is something that a lot of us maybe think about, but necessarily really actually follow through on, the simple act of saying grace or saying a prayer or doing a gratitude, whatever it is that we do before we jump into a meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, just taking a moment and being mindful. So it could be grace, could be prayer, could be a couple breathing practices, could be connecting with someone who you love and just someone at the table. All of those things have been proven to actually help us to regulate our nervous system, which, even if we do it just for a few moments, we are going to typically eat less. We're going to slow down. We're going to register satiety quicker. Hormones are going to be working on our behalf to actually help us to know, oh, I'm full now. I'm feeling connected to my body. These are the little things that we can do. They're little intervention strategies, and they're so helpful. And one of the things that we've been talking about a lot, sweetheart, lately, and it's awesome, especially at nighttime. If you're actually after a meal and you're kind of feeling like, oh, I don't know if I know I want something, and for maybe we actually finish a meal, maybe we watch a movie or we do a little social media, and we go, oh, I wonder why I'm actually craving some dessert right now. Well, that is typically, again, another stress response. And a simple thing we can do is literally
just a pattern.
It is a pattern.
That's what I usually do. So it's that dopamine.
That's so true.
Feedback.
That is so true. So taking a little 5 to 10 minute walk after dinner, like just using that as a way in which we actually get our blood sugar, our insulin driving sugar back into the muscles. Quick walk can literally help us to equalize the cravings, lower the cortisol, help us to manifest a sense of satiety again. And we come back into the house after that walk, doing it with someone you love, doing it with your dogs, whatever the case may be. That'll literally help us that pause experience on a very physiological neurochemical level that'll help you to build that willpower so you don't go back in the house and grab the ice cream or grab the cookies, whatever the case may be. You typically find yourself going, wait a second, I guess I wasn't that hungry after all. I guess that was emotions and not true hunger.
And it may not be realistic for everyone to take a walk after dinner. That it's getting darker earlier, may not be safe. So the key is to step away from whatever the environment was in which that you were having your meal, and making sure it's a meal in the first place, and that you're just not snacking your way through the evening. You're being mindful, you're setting an intention and being grateful. That's really key. But if you can't take a walk, then just step away from wherever you were having your meal. So then you're doing dishes, you're putting on music, you're dancing, and it just takes you out of that craving state. And by then you're going to say like, oh, you know what, I'm actually full. I don't want or need anything else, especially if then you're not watching political ads. Or I think that as we go through the election time and Halloween, then we're going to just get all of, whether you're watching Hallmark or the Food Network, and it's all baking all the time. So then you're like, I want pie, I want cookies, I want cake, oh, I'm going to make that. And then it's just sitting around the house. So it's so tempting. And listen, I love baking, but it's just James and I in the house now. So it's like, I got to channel that creativity into maybe things that don't have 10,000 calories, unless I have specific people I'm giving it away to.
Exactly. So this may actually sound like, well, of course, but we haven't talked about it. Really look around your life right now and think about triggers. People,
Perfect, yeah.
Media, anything that you know, well, gosh, when I hang out with this person, I find myself feeling stressed and I go home and I eat. When I watch this particular show or do this particular social media, after I'm done, I particularly find myself feeling stressed and I start reaching for sugar. This is a really great opportunity to look at two things. Number one, self-awareness around how we actually do put people around us as certain media things that can drive certain behaviors, trigger us in that way. And I like to also bring in self-compassion. It is all the things that we're talking about from a media standpoint, they are programmed to do that. This is how it's built, to get dopamine to kind of want to kick in and sort of give us a sense of motivation and satiety, and also making us feel good and kind of covering that comfort idea. It is a really, really It's a hard science that is built into media that drives certain behaviors. So the more that we can witness ourselves with self-compassion and not judge ourselves, but love ourselves and say, you know what? This is what this can do to me. Therefore, I'm going to love myself to do something else. This person, as much as I love, smaller doses of this person, particularly during the holidays, this is an act of self-love and self-compassion. Therefore, I'm going to limit my time with that person. These are all the ways that we cultivate a relationship with ourselves. I think deepens that self-love and self-care, but also helps us to really build tools as we go.
Yeah, totally. And that just reminded me of so many things. It's kind of like being a witness of yourself, because it's not just sugar and it's not just food, but the alcohol piece is huge during the holidays. And if certain family situations encourage you to overdrink, like maybe you choose a different situation, or it's actually sober curiosity is a cool thing right now. Like maybe you're bringing and introducing a mocktail to the situation, or a sparkling water. You're introducing a healthy dessert. There's so many different choices, but the key is mindfulness, being prepared, setting intentions, and also when you are going to eat, like taking your time, smelling your food, chewing your food. It's the simple things. The gratitude piece. I think that's what's so wonderful about Thanksgiving time in the States. If you start with a smaller plate, by the time you've been smelling that food for hours, you probably go around the table and say something that you're grateful for. It doesn't take much to satiate at that point. And we are certainly not suggesting that you bypass your holiday favorites, whether it's pumpkin pie, pecan pie, apple pie, whatever. Gravy. No, that is like, we want you to enjoy it, but be very mindful around it, and be especially mindful about what's driving the what's next.
Yes.
Or, watching the news with having your huge bowl of popcorn where you're eating the entire bowl.
Yeah. I think this is going to be hopefully something that really, really supports you. And just having another lens to look at life right now, look at the way you're navigating the holidays, look at the way you're navigating your emotions.
Because we do have Halloween right around the corner. And you can imagine growing up in like a naturopathic household. No, we did not restrict, prohibit our kids from eating sugar. And one of the things that starts so early in childhood is when we use sugar as a reward. So if you're a parent out there with little children, I would just really maybe recommend that you don't use their Halloween trick-or-treating candy as a reward. You can set a boundary around it. Like, we're not going to have more than, say, 3 pieces a day, but you help your child manage the timing around that. And you also can negotiate things around, like, okay, 3 pieces of broccoli at dinner, you're having your protein. It's not really a reward. It's just teaching your kids to eat healthy first, right? And I don't know, just the more you can not use candy as a reward, then you really do your adult children a favor, that they are not thinking, oh, I did a great run today, so I'm going to reward myself with 10 beers or a box of licorice or whatever. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Yeah. So hopefully you walk away from today feeling a sense of empowerment. Maybe even you're excited to go, wow, this is going to be a very different holiday season for me. And I'm going to navigate the politics very differently. I'm going to be really aware of what's happening around me. And get a chance to really kind of consider every single day. We get a chance to literally curate the environment, right down to what we put in our fridge, when we go grocery shopping, what we bring back into our home, and certainly the kind of media, thank you for watching, that we bring into our lives that helps us to navigate under the influence of greater hope, maybe greater grace, acceptance, compassion, and love, because ultimately the show here, Love and Life Elevated, that is our entire intention, to elevate love and life in your world so you can be the beneficial presence you love to be, first and foremost for yourself, and then hopefully bring that out in the world.
Absolutely. We're doing this right alongside of you. We are with you, and reach out if we can be supportive, or if you have other suggestions and things that have really worked for you in your life, your family's life, we would love to hear that. So yes, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.
Great show, honey. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace. We love you.
Much love. All blessings. See you next week.